Hey, welcome to this series where we interview our Catalyst coaches and their journey of coaching. And today on this series, we have Alan Liu, all the way from Toronto, Canada. Welcome, Alan.
Hey Mel, thank you so much.
It's really great seeing you again. Today is all about you. We're going to talk about your coaching journey and, of course, your credential as well, your journey towards that. And, of course, about you and about the life before coaching. To tell us a little bit about that, Alan.
Yeah, so I'm actually I was born in the United States and then spent most of my early school years out there. I then in high school relocated to Hong Kong, and that kind of opened up my whole world in Asia.
Yeah.
From there, went to school in the States. Then and there were some internships in Asia. My father had been in Hong Kong during that
Yeah.
time, in China and so forth. And from there, worked in New York after university, went to Hong Kong, started the journey kind of in banking. Fast forward number of years, worked across Hong Kong, then Singapore, many different industries,
Yeah.
from banking, travel to tech. Grab for about 4 years, kind of early days
Wow.
there, to a startup. Yeah, and then just kind of recently, undertook coaching with your program back in 2022 to
Yes.
2023.
Yeah.
And now in Toronto, my wife is Canadian, so hence coming back here, and she has elderly parents, so doing the
That's
dutiful
so good.
thing, and
Yeah.
also serving my permanent residency. So that's what's happening.
That's beautiful, man. For a moment, I thought you were like Bruce Lee, Hong Kong and America. And of course, you're better looking than Bruce Lee. Come on.
I'll take anything from you, Mel. Absolutely.
Um,
Mastered.
oh, thank you. Of all of that wonderful background, right, that you had and all that experiences in those different industries, right? I'm trying to find that link, right, with all of that to coaching. What happened for you there?
I think when you're been doing corporates for 20, 25 years and
Yeah.
across the different industries, you want to think about that second half, that second half of your life, and the opportunity really to, and of course I've had the opportunity of undertaking roles as a manager, as
Yes.
a mentor, advisor. I'll even throw in parent in there as well.
Yeah.
And where now you can bridge that towards being able to kind of give and how others can benefit from that knowledge.
Yeah.
And I think that's where making that leap into coaching, I thought, was a natural bridge, and to move forward with that. And it
Mm.
has been a lot of that, and that opportunity, and of working with different clients who, when I speak with them, of course, that one asks, why am I selected and so forth, and they talk about that. They cite that from, looking at my LinkedIn profile or my experience. So I'm grateful that it has panned out kind
Mm.
of initially, at least, a lot of how I saw this natural path or transition towards coaching.
Well done. So obviously there are many options out there in coaching these days. And you landed at Catalyst, and we're very thankful, Alan. Our paths crossed. Tell us about that journey into Catalyst and the program.
Yeah, it was a really special time for me, and I know, through that whole program, I learned a lot. It's hard for me to even, through this very short window, to even discuss all the things, but I appreciated the development on self-awareness, and being able to understand myself, and how I operated, and especially through a coaching lens, and how to be able to do all that. The reflection component of it, I know I've spoken about this several times in the
Yeah.
program, and I was very honest that I never journaled, never wrote, but the program itself, one of the requirements through every lesson was to do that.
Yeah.
And I discovered something that I was able, that I was pretty okay at, doing the
Yeah.
reflecting and being able then to articulate and express that. And now having that, there was an opportunity for me to see my own journey through that, and progress through that self-awareness.
Mm.
it's great because now you are able to apply that and help others through this profession and practice as well. So it's important. It's important that I learned a lot of that myself and now
Mm,
can really lend that to others.
mm. It kind of reminds me when you're sharing all that, it's like looking at the mirror and realizing that it's got to start with ourselves, right? And what coaching does, it's like holding the mirror up to a person so that that person, our coachee, our client, can have their own reflection of themselves. Tell us one example of that where you were able as a coach to just to be the mirror holder, where this person was able to get something more than they probably expected.
So recently, I was working with this client.
Mm,
It's interesting because he is in the strategic planning function, a director level, works with
yeah.
CEOs.
Wow.
And he, in the first session, talked about the fear of speaking up. He had come from consulting before and then moved into corporates. And it was really an opportunity just to understand, of course, the reasons, rationales, and so forth as well. And, I think he had no personal fear of failure or whatever. But anyway, as we went through this whole process, we uncovered what is his definition of contribution, of
Wow.
what value is, right? Being able to present. And he always, I think, through that discovery, understood that, in the consulting world, it was always about giving the right answer, that
Yeah.
delivering expertise. And we went through and talked about, what are other opportunities of delivering value. And so interesting highlight of this was we talked and talked. And the last question he asked me was, I have trouble when it comes to remote, because we're in hybrid environments, remote versus in person. In the remote world, he had his notes on the side. He could, answer anything as well. In person, though, he
Yeah.
was more afraid to speak up, and that's what. So he asked me, "How do I solve for this remote issue?" And I go, "That's we talked about it." And then just having to hold up that mirror, we help them understand it wasn't about this remote or in person
Mm,
situation itself,
yeah.
right? And we're going back to the core root, the fundamental challenge of him trying to figure out how to develop value and to
Yeah.
contribute and not to be
Yeah.
afraid and have that fear. So yeah, it's just I hope that was a relevant example of something that
Mm.
we're able to help him kind of break through a little bit of that.
Well done. It's like wanting to show up in a way that, maybe we want to be appreciated, as you said, that you want to be valued in that way. And it happens to the best of us, right? We try to put that best feet forward and show up that way in hopes that the people in front of us will accept us as we are. And that how we realize as a coach, we sometimes tempted to do that. Like you, Alan, you've got that consulting background. So you've got that ability, I'm sure, to value add and to give different strategies as well and lend your scope to another person
Yeah.
and how difficult it is to just hold back. Tell us a little bit about that and how you manage to still wear or choose to wear that coach hat instead of obviously the other hats that you've been very accustomed to.
This is a very stark reminder, I think, of
Yeah.
our of during the time that I was at Catalyst
Yes.
and do the practice sessions and even through the session with you, Mel. And I remember very vividly these four words that you
Oh,
kept reminding me.
I can't
Stay
remember it.
in, stay in your lane. That's what I.
Oh,
So
thanks.
it's so even years later,
Mm,
coaching again, that
wow.
still resonates with me at the end of the day, and being
Mm,
able to just understand that you can't consult, you gotta, remain in the coaching hat
yeah.
and provide that presence to the client itself.
I resonate with that four words. It's pretty good stuff. And then I'll just say this, okay? We didn't plan this, right? I'm just gonna stretch it a bit. Let's just say there are times when certain clients of ours, perhaps even in agreement, they choose to want different parts of us. They choose or have chosen us because we have that, as you said before, you have that background, that leverage, that understanding, even the experience in those many industries. And then, yes, they're hiring us as coach, but there may be this expectation of like, what do you think?
Yeah.
What should I do here? Right? To hear a little bit of that, maybe mentor stroke. I don't want to say consultant, but you know what I mean. It's a different hat,
Yeah.
different lane
Yeah.
where it kind of crosses over into when do you think it would be ideal, if possible, when you could be that coach fully and yet value add or lend a helping hand from this side so that at the end of the day, that the coachee will also get a lot more out of the session for themselves.
Yeah, no, it's a loaded question for sure because the some clients come in not understanding what coaching is.
Yeah, it's
So
true.
even able just to come in and help them understand the difference between, consulting, mentoring, and all the different
Yeah,
vehicles of that. Sometimes you have to set the expectations, not just explain it, but set those expectations as
that's
well.
true.
Sometimes, you work with very senior people and some of these guys are like, I don't want woo woo stuff, so you deal with egos
That's
and you
true.
have to manage that as well.
Yeah,
So and sometimes conversations can be very quiet as well
yeah,
because you're asking the questions
yeah,
and they don't know how to answer. They don't,
yeah,
and you kind of work around it
yeah,
again. And
it's true.
so you want to try and keep the momentum going as well a little bit.
Yeah,
It's not so straightforward all the time.
yeah,
That was one thing I think I certainly have learned
yeah,
from
that's good.
being in the coaching school to kind of real world. And
Yep.
and again, that's where but again, I think, ICF and catalysts remind you the significance, the importance, even the implications of what pure coaching can reveal, can absolutely provide potentially. And so
Yeah,
just remembering that and knowing that that's there and helping them understand, hopefully that as well is part of
yeah,
the patience and journey working with them as well.
yeah. Thank you. Not a easy question, and I know that through that time, right, since you've been certified, and of course, we're going to talk about your credentialing journey as well. This is the real thing. This is the real part of life, right? We go out there and people out there have different expectations of what coaching is. And you said it right. We've got to just set up that clearly in the agreement so that they come in realizing what they're going to get from the conversation. Alan, congratulations. I know it's a little while back that you achieved your ACC and you're probably working towards your PCC now. But, tell us what drove you to get credential at that level.
So one of the definitive parts, and I know through our
Mm,
conversation when I initially spoke about even getting the Catalyst credential was,
yeah,
I wanted to find out, what did it take to get an ICF ACC, but that was almost like a tick mark for me, and I wanted to once upon completion undertake the recording,
yeah,
and then I ended up taking the test in Canada after relocating from Singapore at the
yeah,
time. I think what most of others have said, it was by far a very challenging exam for sure, and a lot of Facebook posts, people failing, and so it was very daunting indeed, and
yeah,
I didn't want to take it multiple times and do this. So I was fortunate enough to have taken it and passed and be able
well
to
done.
immediately get credentialed around that. So that was
Yeah,
back in August of 2023, right? So yeah, nearly a year and a half ago. So I was really
yeah,
grateful that able to get that, and now through different platforms and working the hours and
yeah,
just continuing to practice and help clients. So really grateful.
yeah. What would be one positive benefit from being credentialed, if I could ask your perspective on that?
Without a doubt, it's since a significant part of my work is
Mm.
with platforms.
Yep.
Without a doubt, that opened up the ability or availability of me being able to practice on those. And so the credential was important by a stretch, right? And I know even some platforms even require minimum PCC as well.
Hmm.
And because I think there's just been this supply demand that they're managing as well through that.
Yeah.
But I've been fortunate enough to practice on these with currently with the ACC,
Yeah.
and it's important. It certainly is important to get on these.
Mm. So, Alan, what's that future looking like for you? It's a bit of that sharing on what are your dreams and aspirations.
So I think the original intent for me for coaching was I would undertake this as a full-time profession.
Yeah.
However, I didn't know if it would be now or kind of in the next maybe 5, 10 plus years because
Yeah.
I thought the opportunity to continue being in the corporate
Yeah.
and being a professional with the time and opportunity, of course, to
Yeah.
be able to do that. If coaching was an opportunity for me to practice that on the side and to certainly continue working with others and refining the craft, I'm certainly more open to do so. Interestingly enough, I'm also exploring companies, right,
Yeah.
where in-house there's an opportunity to do that as well. That
Yeah.
would certainly be an opportunity best to use the best of both worlds as
That's
well.
true.
We'll see what opens up, but there's
Yeah.
certainly several different options I'm exploring for the time being.
That's good. Thank you once again for sharing your journey. It's really daunting for newbies coming in and wondering whether there's still space in the coaching world because they often say it's overcrowded. I have a different point of view. I think we need more coaches out there, just like doctors and nurses and all the beautiful professions that really gives back to society. What are your closing remarks, especially for those wanting to come in or coming in right now into the coaching industry?
So I certainly think embracing that process as you're
Yeah,
going through the certification is important, right? And it rewards you with so much. And we always try and think of things holistically, right? So it rewards you with competencies, models, the science itself. I spoke about this personal benefit of the self-awareness, right?
yeah,
And whether it's your strengths, your shortcomings, your blind spots, being able to uniquely address it, leverage it. And then once you're in the coaching piece as well, it's an art. And it's a beautiful art because there's so many subspecialties, so many types of clients across different
yeah.
geographies, understanding
That's
cultural
true.
nuances, all
Yeah,
of that. So it's a very large world, and you meet different professionals with various different backgrounds, and you just learn. I think if you have this appetite to continue learning, the world is your oyster. Certainly, it really isn't within coaching itself. So
yeah.
definitely encourage a lot of people to explore and to continue discovering and learning in this process.
Well said, man. Again, we want to say thank you. We're really proud of you being a Catalyst coach as well and what you have achieved. We're just looking forward to the days ahead and following your story, Alan. Wishing you all the best ahead.
No, again, I'm grateful for meeting you, Mel, and for undertaking me and really helping me refine me through this process as well. So super
Pleasure.
grateful as well.
All right. Till then, take care, everybody, and continue to stay in your lane. Catch you guys later. Bye bye.